Hello, I'm Ann Allenbaugh, and I'm presenting my project Sentence Sense, Writing Sentences to Increase Reading Comprehension. In the first week of virtual learning, I noticed the demand for independent reading and written work increased. Instead of verbalizing questions and answers in a classroom, students are writing these ideas, some more successfully than others. Written text is typically more complex than spoken text, with longer sentences and more demanding sentence structures. Inspired by our experimentation with virtual learning, this project was developed to explore the connection between writing and reading comprehension, and to demonstrate that instruction in writing at the sentence level can increase reading comprehension. Where do sentences fit into our understanding of the skills and processes necessary for reading comprehension? The simple view of reading tells us that word decoding times language comprehension equals reading comprehension. Word reading refers to the ability to read single words out of context. Language comprehension refers to our ability to understand words, sentences, and text. Scarborough's reading rote helps us to see that sentences play an important part in language comprehension. The reader must identify sentence structures to interpret how words are related and to link sentences to each other. The syntactic demands of written texts increases during the school years, and many texts have syntactic complexities that are beyond everyday spoken communication. The sentence is also integral to creating a mental model. To comprehend, a reader must decipher the individual words, phrases, and sentences in the text to create the surface representation of meaning. At the surface level, the reader also interprets the cohesive ties, which are the links within and between sentences and discourse organization, or the logical structure of the text. Once a surface representation has been created, the words or sentences must be held in working memory long enough for meaning to be extracted and integrated with knowledge to create a text base. Facility with language is the foundation for the mental construction of a text base. At the deepest level of comprehension, the reader integrates surface and text meanings with his or her own knowledge, understanding, and goals. This mental representation, or situation model, is the desired end result of proficient reading and the goal of teaching. Words and sentences are the building blocks of text. Once students have acquired fluent word decoding, it is assumed that they can use those words to make sense of sentences. This is not always the case. Written sentences are more complex than spoken sentences, and students must understand the cohesive devices, the syntactic and semantic link between the words and sentences that bind a text together, in order to generate inferences that fill in the gaps and bridge text information with background knowledge. Why do some students struggle to make sense of sentences? Children with specific language impairment are known to have problems with reading comprehension and often have difficulties with sentence understanding. Some students with mild language problems lack a formal diagnosis and may also struggle with reading comprehension. Sometimes children with reading comprehension problems have poor syntactic knowledge. However, the relation between syntactic knowledge and comprehension is not strong compared to other processes in reading comprehension. There is clearer evidence that poor comprehenders make more errors on tasks of syntactic awareness. Syntactic awareness tasks involve the ability to consciously reflect on sentence structure. Syntactic awareness tasks require metacognitive monitoring, a skill that poor comprehenders lack. One explanation for the link between syntactic skills and reading comprehension is that they are related by phonological processing skills, which support working memory. Comprehension problems arise when children are not able to create or sustain a phonological representation of verbal information. This causes problems when processing information in verbal working memory, and in turn affects their ability to comprehend syntactically complex sentences. In a case for the sentence in reading comprehension, Cheryl M. Scott seeks to address sentence comprehension and focuses on the comprehension requirements of complex sentences. She makes the case that sentence comprehension is a culprit for some readers and is commonly overlooked when thinking about improving reading comprehension and content knowledge. If a reader cannot derive meaning from the individual sentences that make up a text, it will be a major obstacle in text-level comprehension. The sentences that children are asked to read and those that they eventually write are very different from those they hear and say. What characteristics make sentences difficult? Inflectual morphology, particularly verb tense and agreement. Long-distance dependencies, like reflexive pronouns, object-relative clauses, passive voice. These types of language problems are thought to result from a specific grammatically based representational deficit, as opposed to a more domain-general cognitive difference. It is clear that many young children who have difficulty comprehending and producing sentences at a standard that is comparable to their peers are at risk for reading problems and may be labeled as poor comprehenders. Eno and Valencia found that sentence comprehension did not affect comprehension for the independent readers, nor did it affect frustration-level readers, but it had a robust, deleterious effect on instructional-level readers. Sentence complexity interacts with general comprehension within a zone where fairly subtle complexity factors could make the difference to a weak sentence parser. Recent findings confirm that working verbal memory accounts for significant variance in complex sentence comprehension of typically developing children. In her research, Scott identified several treatments. Levy and Friedman taught explicit manipulation of the constituents in complex sentences. Positive results were maintained as late as 10 months after treatment. Scott found that the best research technique for helping children to produce more complex sentences is sentence combining. Techniques for the direct teaching of sentence complexity should be carried out within a contextualized skill framework, not in the form of isolated, drill-like exercises. In her research, Mary Hirschman sought to improve the use and understanding of complex sentences by creating a metalinguistic bridge that would bypass a student's deficiency through increasing metalinguistic awareness. The experiment was conducted with 3rd and 4th grade students over the course of a school year. In the initial phase, metalinguistic concepts were introduced. Sentences, verbs, verb phrases, subjects and objects of sentences, nouns and pronouns. Simple versus complex sentences were discussed. The next phase involved using fables to identify sentences and then to rewrite fables using simple sentences. The experimenter then guided students in combining the simple sentences into as small a number of complex sentences as possible. The experimental group showed growth in both written and oral language. The results validated the notion that raising metalinguistic awareness does facilitate complex sentence production at both the oral and written level. Writing to Read: Evidence for How Writing Can Improve Reading from Carnegie Corporation of New York, written by Steve Graham and Michelle Herbert, is a meta-analysis of research approaches that highlight writing techniques shown to enhance students' reading. The report makes the following recommendations for effective practices for strengthening reading through writing. First is to have students write about the texts that they read. Students' comprehension of science, social studies, and language arts is improved when they write about what they read, specifically when they respond to a text in writing, write summaries of a text, write notes about a text, answer questions about a text in writing, or create and answer written questions to a text. Second, teach students the writing skills and processes that go into creating a text. Students' reading skills and comprehension are improved by learning the skills and processes that go into creating text, specifically when teachers teach the process of writing, the text structures for writing, and teach paragraph or sentence construction skills, all of which improve reading comprehension. Teach spelling and sentence construction skills, which improve reading fluency, and teach spelling skills, which improve word reading skills. The third recommendation is to increase how much students write. Students' reading comprehension is improved by having them increase how often they produce their own text. The following findings were made in regards to sentence-level instruction. Teaching patterns for constructing sentences or larger units of text should improve reading skills. In several studies, sentence instruction was systematically and explicitly taught. The effects of these writing practices are likely to be minimal for students who write infrequently or receive little to no explicit instruction in how to write. An important key to success in using these activities with lower achieving students was to provide them with ongoing practice and explicit instruction. The Writing Revolution, written by Judith Hochman and Natalie Wexler, outlines an approach to writing that provides clear, coherent, evidence-based methods of instruction that can be used no matter the subject or grade level. The Writing Revolution is as much a method for teaching content as it is for teaching writing. There is no separate writing block and no separate writing curriculum. Teachers adapt the strategies and activities to their pre-existing curriculum and weave them into content instruction. It emphasizes deliberate practice. To make writing better, they need a series of strategies that specifically targets the skills they haven't mastered, while building the skills they have in a gradual process. The 6 principles of the Writing Revolution are: students need explicit instruction in writing, beginning in the early elementary grades. Sentences are the building blocks of all writing. When embedded in the content of curriculum, writing instruction is a powerful teaching tool. The content of the curriculum drives the rigor of the writing activities. Grammar is best taught in the context of student writing. And the 2 most important phases of the writing process are planning and revising. The Writing Revolution guides you through a sequence of strategies and activities that are adaptable to any content area, grade level, or ability level. The activities lend themselves to differentiation. The book provides numerous examples of how to implement the strategies. The website provides additional resources, rubrics, sample pacing guides, interactive templates, and checklists. There are several key points for implementation. Strategies refer to techniques and activities refer to scaffolding. For example, summarizing is a strategy, and writing a sentence to summarize a painting is an activity. You may use several different strategies at the same time. Although you will want to follow the presented sequence for introducing new strategies, you will continue having students practice previous strategies as you progress. When introducing a strategy, it is best to model the activity for the class and then practice orally. This is true for younger and older students. Once students understand the concept, you can have them try it in writing. As you progress through the strategies, provide prompt feedback on writing and continuously assess progress to determine what strategies to focus on and which students need modifications. The Writing Revolution is designed to be embedded in the content that you are teaching. The only exception is if you are introducing a new Writing Revolution concept. You can use content that all of your students are familiar with. To teach writing skills, you don't need a separate writing block. It is more effective to weave writing instruction into regular instruction. Your students will be developing skills and content knowledge simultaneously. A sequence of instruction is presented in linear format, but when teaching with the Writing Revolution strategies, you will progress in a cumulative fashion. Students do not get to the point of mastery and move on from a strategy. Rather, the strategy is revisited as content becomes more challenging, because the content and writing skills are so interconnected. The Writing Revolution provides a sequence for grades 1 through 12. The activities progress from sentences to planning and outlining, paragraph writing, summarizing, composition writing, and writing opinion, pros and cons, and argumentative essays. In Revolution, 4 criteria are used to assess writing. They are structure, coherence, unity, and sentence skills. The Writing Revolution has created 2 basic types of assessments, keyed to the strategies presented, to be used 2 to 3 times per year. The first type of assessment is the independent writing sample, which gives an overall sense of improvement. The other type of assessment is the diagnostic worksheet. There are 2 options for evaluating the writing assessments. The first is the single paragraph checklist. The second is the independent writing rubric. The attached lesson was designed using the principles of the Writing Revolution. The lesson focuses on the very first concept addressed in the Writing Revolution, sentences, and more specifically, sentence fragments and complete sentences. It is planned for a 2nd grade reading class as part of a comprehension lesson. Subsequent lessons will deal with finding fragments, sentence types, and developing questions. Helping students to make sense of sentences will help them to make sense of what they are reading.